man. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and roll with it. So Steph, thanks for being on the podcast.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Yeah, no, it's cool. Last year was really kind of your first episode with the Danny D Remembrance, one that we did with Bugs. So that was that episode meant a lot to me. It was good to. I'm sure it did for you too. It was good to
Yeah,
reminisce.
definitely. Danny's always a constant on my mind, and I always try to implement his teachings in my work. So
Yeah, yeah. No, it's gonna be cool to see like I really with a lot of these episodes, especially the first time I do a full episode on someone is like I want people to know their background, how they started, and everything before we dig into like some of the more technical stuff on like custom paint because I definitely have a lot of stuff to talk to you about on that.
oh,
But
definitely.
like where'd you start in the industry?
Well, out of high school, I went to LA Trade Tech,
Mm-hmm.
and this was in 2008. I was an 18-year-old kid. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to do something automotive. Um, I grew up in LA, so the going to school in LA, we didn't have too many like shop classes and stuff. But by the time that I was, in high school and stuff, there wasn't too many shop classes, at least where I was attending. So when I moved, I currently live in Alhambra. Um, so when I moved here, I switched schools. I was like in the middle of my junior year,
Mm-hmm.
and the school that I moved to did have shop classes. So I took a mechanics class, and I really liked it. I learned all the basics, like how to do brakes and how to like balance tires and oil change and stuff like that, and it was cool. Um, but I'm more of a visual person, and the my teacher recommended uh like, hey, you should go to LA Trade Tech and try their, he called it body and fender, he's an older
Mm-hmm.
guy. So I'm like, all right. So I after I graduated, I looked into, the programs at LA Trade Tech. I did the automotive collision repair,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of how I got my introduction to, like, body work and paint, and how to, everything that goes into that, and my professor, Brian, um he knew how to do all that custom, work, because he paints like race cars, and um he 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 was really big in the vanning era. Like, he used to paint a lot of bands and stuff. So
Okay. Like the
he gave me
crazy
all the,
graphics, like the psychedelic stuff, or like just like
yeah, exactly,
yeah,
So a lot of that stuff, it entails a lot of, technique and stuff. So
yeah.
he started um he started showing me that, and then later he pushed, to open like a custom class, I guess you could say, where
Mm-hmm.
he went more, into detail about pinstriping and leaf work, and the flake and candies, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's when I started learning about this, and I just kept going.
Well, before you like started like even being introduced to like the custom side, you say you did the mechanical and some of the body shop stuff. Uh, like did you think of it like you do like the custom paint, or was it just like, oh, this is cool, like, you're kind of into it, but then you see the custom stuff, did that kind of open your eyes? Like maybe I asked two questions at the same time.
I mean, I didn't know anything about custom work.
Mhm.
Um, I, I saw it, like magazines and stuff, and on TV or whatever, and it always used to blow my mind, like, how do you like achieve that,
Mhm.
Um, so it was really cool when Brian, started, kind of teaching me that stuff, and because my intention when I started trade school was to eventually work like at a body shop, or maybe like at a dealer or something and work in
Mhm.
the body shop. But I went a totally different
Yeah.
direction. Yeah, so I mean, I stuck with it, and you know, I'm glad that I did because my life's been a trip.
Yeah.
You know?
No, for real. Yeah. So then that was your first exposure to like custom?
Yeah, yeah, definitely in trade school. And then, after trade school, I graduated with my associate's degree in collision repair in
Yeah.
2011.
Mhm.
And after that, I had a quick stint, at a detail place, but it was more like a fleet management company where they would get vehicles that were like really new. They weren't probably even out yet,
Mhm.
and we used to detail them for like events or like journalists that used to, like, I guess, test drive the vehicles and maybe write articles about it for, like, like Motor Trend or something like
Yeah.
that. So I did that for a few years, and then in 2014 is when I went to SEMA and I saw Danny.
Mhm.
So that's when I he was doing like a demo, like a striping demo outside, and you know the following year, uh, in 2015, Danny went to go speak to Brian that he wanted apprentices.
Mhm.
But I had already finished the program, so I wasn't there. But Brian, sent some students that I also knew that they were my friends, and they kind of lured me
Mhm.
to Danny's shop one day, and that's
And
where I you
you,
know
you
that's where I really developed. I met
okay.
Danny, and I ended up apprenticing too, and I that's where I ended up staying, and I think that's where the real like
Like
the real you
spark.
know yeah, that was the real, like,
What?
because I had to make it, I had to really refine, and because I used to help Danny a lot.
Mhm.
That was the good thing about me going to trade school, was that I could help, you know, from the body from the body work all the way up to like the polish. Like, I
Yeah.
knew how to do everything in between. So so me and Danny used to tag team stuff sometimes,
Mhm.
and I had to develop, that touch,
Mhm.
to be able to make, fine lines, and um, make it look like he did it, basically.
Mhm.
Um,
But that's a big jump going from like collision to like custom paint like that. Was that like do you think that collision work just like did it help you like kind of go into that next thing like
it definitely did, because, you know, luckily Danny really trusted me a lot, and because I already had the schooling, like, he didn't have to be babysitting me and like explaining stuff to me.
mhm
Like, I knew how to, like, block, how to spread, mix my bundle and spread it nicely. I knew how to primer, I knew how to block, so color sand and stuff like that. So he didn't have to really explain to me much about that.
mhm
Um, my intention when I started with Danny was to learn how to do graphics.
mhm
So even though, so at that time I had already been practicing maybe around 7 years, maybe 6, 7 years. I had already been practicing, like, my striping, my leafing, you know, um, my spraying, how to spray like flakes and candies and stuff. I had already been practicing a lot of that stuff. But it was like the layout aspect,
mhm
how to lay stuff out, because it used to blow my mind. How do you get both sides of the car like even? Like,
yeah
I had no idea. That shit used to drive me crazy, like, trying to figure it out. And then I'm a very visual learner.
mhm
So just even going to Danny's shop and watching him work, I learned so much.
yeah
Yeah, because then I got to see his process. And then if I didn't understand something, or, I would ask him questions, and he was always so good about explaining stuff. And yeah, like, it was just, it really helped. So all
yeah
that, yeah, definitely.
and that was and you said 20 was it 2014 when you guys met
that was the first time I saw him, but like when I was like officially like said hi to him, or and like actually met in person, um was in 2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man,
And
so
when
that
I
was
first saw him, I was like, "Oh, he's the one
uh-huh.
that was doing the demo outside." And like it kind of clicked, and I was like, "Oh shit, all right." So but I didn't know who he was. I
Uh-huh.
didn't know that he was such a big deal, and that's why I used to tease him about it. Like as I would work with him and me and him used to get along really good. Um, we used to always joke around and stuff. So I used to tease him about it, like, "Oh, you're just some fool to me," like, and we would have a good laugh about it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
And so okay, 2014. We met you in 2016. So this was all pretty recent when we had met. 'Cause I remember Connie brought this up the other day cuz when she knew we were going to do this podcast episode, I think you guys were in the Exalta, like we were in the Exalta, like one of the setups there, and you
Mhm.
guys, I guess, were hanging out, talking for a little while, and she was like, that was one of the people that I connected pretty easily with, um,
I
and
do remember that actually.
like the the same way you're kind of like the way you said you saw him in 2014, and you're like, oh, this is really cool, and but you didn't really know, who he was at that point, and it's like that early like I don't know how you say that. That's like that early beginning, like those fond memories that like I have that for 2016 when I was watching you guys in the Exalta paint booth doing all like the custom
Mhm.
stuff, and I have pictures of Bugs and Danny in there, and I was like, "Oh, this is so cool," and like I knew a little bit about them, but not too much at the time. And so like I feel like I have the same feeling, thinking of like your moment in 2014, and I'm looking at that, and I'm like, man, I'm so glad I have those pictures.
Yeah, me too. Like I do have a few clips and pictures from that particular SEMA.
hmm
And I think I had attended SEMA before, but I think that was the first SEMA where I was officially like a Danny D, like employee, I guess
Yeah.
you could say. My badge, said Danny D Customs on it, and he's the one. I was there, with him.
hmm Yep.
So and it was really cool. Those are really great memories. I really cherish them, and um because of him and because he used to take me to events like that, I got to meet so many other people, and including you guys.
hmm
Because I think I remember you guys. I feel like we were, I don't know if they had like a two-story kind of setup.
Yeah. Outside.
And and we were on the upstairs area,
hmm
and do remember that we were chilling and we were, talking about, and I think that's when your girl gave me a pin
hmm
with the girls behind the gun or
Yeah.
something.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
This is
So
the early days. It's
yeah,
like it's
yeah, and
hard to like think of that, like I only got bits and pieces.
I still remember. I still have that pin too, actually.
That's cool. That's cool. That's an
Yeah.
OG.
So
And that was her and I met. Connie and I met that year too.
oh no way.
Yeah. Yeah. We after that we never left each other.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. Yep. Uh that's definitely 2016 was definitely one of those years. There's a lot of stuff that like I look back and I'm like that's so cool that we had, a lot of these moments like that. Uh
Yeah, definitely.
but in the
I,
moment it's kind of like, raw and you're not really like thinking of it like that. It's kind of like you kind of get the wonder of it a little bit and like now I appreciate it way more than, in the moment there.
oh yeah, for sure. Definitely. In hindsight, you do realize how those moments, they grow into something more. They have the potential to grow into something more. So,
Mhm.
it's really it's really cool to it's already been like almost 10 years since
Yeah.
then. So,
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
a lot
wild.
has
I
happened.
mean,
Yeah.
So that, I mean, was in custom paint, those are your like formidable years then? Like that was like you were.
Definitely. When it comes to custom paint, that was definitely my like dive like deep dive into it,
Mhm.
because I had to really like get it together,
Yeah.
because Danny needed me and I needed to come with it. So
Mhm.
um you, I had to really put in a lot of practice, a lot of time, people that were at the shop know that I was there with Danny all day, like
Yeah.
literally. I used to always, tease him that he was holding me hostage and shit, but I knew that the knowledge that I was getting from him was just like priceless,
Yeah.
and I'm so glad that I stuck it out with him, for all those years and all those days, all those hours, just me and him,
Mhm.
there there was a lot of days where it was just me and him
Yeah.
until midnight, 1 in the
Yeah.
morning, whatever.
Yeah, what a gift now you think about that, and that's something that's like a common theme I've had on the podcast is like a lot of people like yourself that their earlier days started with somebody that everyone looks up to right now. And like in that moment, they were like they didn't really think much of it, and they're going through it and they're like, "Oh, this is cool. Okay, this is the real deal, this person, but like you're learning through that. And for a lot of people from the outside in, they're just like it's crazy to think that that was your first opportunity.
Yeah, and I'm really lucky that he even, gave me a chance.
Mhm.
I was still, pretty young, and me being a girl,
Mhm.
in the male dominated industry,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of, well, maybe now more people are open to it, but back then there wasn't that many women in the industry, and
Mhm.
um, you know, I I I'm very thankful and grateful that he gave me the chance to even be in a shop,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he trusted me a lot. So
That,
that was really, I learned so much. I learned so much from him. Like I can't even. There's no words to
did did
explain.
did you guys like get along like right away? Did you have to like earn a lot of respect, before he really dug into stuff, or do you feel like he, yeah, I don't know. You guys like.
Danny, at first glance, he looked very serious. He looked very serious, and I think I maybe I came off serious. I'm not sure, but I think he always respected that I was willing to learn and I
Mhm.
was willing to put in the work. Um, you know, I I I know that Danny had a lot of apprentices and not anybody could just hang.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the same thing in trade school. A
Mhm.
lot of people, start the program and they never even finished it.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of dedication, a lot of passion, a lot of, you have to be serious. And I think he saw that in me. He saw my potential, and we I think that I I think earned like respect towards me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So but we always got along pretty good. Like he was a little serious, because at first we were feeling each other out. Like I didn't know if I could be. I'm pretty silly by nature,
Mhm.
so I didn't know if I could just like be silly and play around, But like little by little, the walls start coming out. You start feeling more comfortable,
Mhm.
with each other, and me and him we always got along really good. Um, Obviously because we were together all the time, we would probably get on each other's nerves once in a while.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but what I always appreciated and loved about Danny was that if if we had some sort of like friction or whatever, we can always talk about it.
Yeah.
Like I'd be like, I could always be like, hey, I didn't like this and this. I didn't, that made me uncomfortable, whatever. And we can always talk about it.
Mhm.
And the same. And I used to always tell him, if I do something wrong, if there's something that you don't like that I did or whatever, like please tell me, so I can fix that,
Mhm.
because I always wanted a good relationship with him.
Yeah.
And you know, and so we always had, good communication, and we were good. We were good until the end.
Mhm.
So
That you know
that's
that
something.
that makes me think like this last year at SEMA we did a lot with a few youth programs that are getting a lot of these you know the up and coming generation into the industry.
Mhm.
And a lot of the I would see this a lot in people there and other things too, but is they the younger generation that wants to get into the industry, and they see someone who's like the equivalent to like Danny, and they get afraid of like messaging them on Instagram or whatever account, whatever it is. And and I basically told a lot of them is like, you got to put yourself out there, and you never know what's going to happen. You can
Yeah.
message someone, they might not respond, but like if you don't do anything, you'll never get an answer. You'll never get that opportunity. Like from your perspective, like going into something like that where you're a person with, limited experience and looking at somebody like Danny, like what's your perspective towards like that younger generation who's looking at, oh, this is a great builder, or this is a great, I want to work under them or something.
Um, I say go into it, with an open mind, and you definitely can be like sensitive.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was something, not anybody can take criticism.
Mhm.
So I think that's a good trait to have,
Mhm.
is to be able to take criticism, even if somebody is rude about it. You have to like put your pride aside
Mhm.
and, you know, self-reflect, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
Um, because there's been plenty of times where I did something, I thought it was fucking cool, and then I go show Danny, he's like, nah, do it again. You
He
know what
just
I mean?
knock you down.
Yeah, it's like, nah, trash. Do it again.
But you need that.
Exactly, because how else are you gonna learn?
Yeah.
And it's always good to be your own like self-critic.
Mhm.
Like criticize yourself, look at your work, look at others' work, how does it compare, like because you're not gonna improve like there's a lot of people that I feel like want to rush into things
Mhm.
and don't want to put in the time
Yeah.
or the practice into it, and then right away, they just maybe a few months after learning how to stripe, they think that they're ready to go out and make some money.
Yeah.
But your work is gonna speak for itself. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like
Yeah. I
I
mean.
it took me I to do my first like full paneled out like lowrider.
Mhm.
I waited like 9 years before I did my first car.
Yeah. Now.
And that was already I was already working with Danny maybe like a couple of years.
Yeah. Like
You
how
know,
was that, like nerves? Was it like you just not
it
thinking
was
you're
a lot of,
ready?
yeah, it was definitely a lot of self-doubt,
Uh-huh.
and um a lot of just like like am I good enough type of
Yeah.
stuff. For the same reason, because I didn't want to rush into things. I didn't want to mess up somebody's car.
Mhm.
I didn't want to be, especially being a girl, I didn't want to be that girl, that, you know, fucking sucks and like you fucked up my car. Like,
Mhm. Yeah, paint's sheeting off of
and
it,
it
you
should,
know.
that should follows you. That should follows you, it's bad for your reputation. So, um, I think it's always good for beginners to really set aside some time for some quality practice, even if
Mhm.
it's 15 minutes a day.
Yeah.
It's better than not striping for 2, 3 weeks and then you spend 3 hours practicing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You need to develop that muscle memory, develop that feel, that touch. You need to learn um how to create a an appealing, aesthetically pleasing design.
Yeah.
All of that, and the more you practice, all these things come to you.
Mhm.
So without any proper, actually quality practice,
Mhm.
that stuff is gonna be hard to figure out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something simple as paleting your brush. Like, how do you know when your paint feels right? You're
Mhm.
not gonna know until you practice, consistently
Yeah.
for months. Like, that's
Mhm.
not gonna come to you. So that's what I always tell people. Like, even now, I still go visit Brian sometimes at Trade Tech. Um, and that's what I tell his students. It's like, all these things, someone can teach you the basics, but if you don't put in the work or the practice, like, it's not gonna stick.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna figure out these things. Like, the way I palette my brush, the way I mix my paint, the way I hold my brush may not even work for you,
Mhm.
but you're gonna figure out how to hold it, how to set up your paint or whatever. All that you're gonna figure out on your own
Mhm.
with quality practice
Yeah.
and actually paying attention to, like, what is your paint doing?
Mhm.
How are you holding your brush? What is the brush doing? Like, all those things, it's like up to you to figure it out.
You're really making me think back again. Back at SEMA, we had there was I talked about this dude on the podcast that he was a part of a program where you know they were bringing a lot of students out to talk to people like us, with people with experience and stuff, and it was an awesome experience. And this particular person, one of the things that he was showing us was a lot of his custom paint work, and he had a little bit of a hard time with some family on this, because they didn't really understand it.
Yeah.
And I was looking at his pictures and I'm like, dude, you're young, like you have this, like you've got like this is something that's speaking to you, like it's in you.
Yeah.
And one of the things we were talking about was, again, like you're saying, like putting this into practice, because you can look at the stuff and be like, this is cool, but again, someone like Danny's gonna go, those colors don't really work, and those lines are not right where they need to be,
Exactly. Exactly.
and like you need that, because like you'll make a bunch of stuff that you think looks cool, and like it's realistically great practice, but like it doesn't work in something that you're going to charge someone.
Exactly. So, and if someone tells you, like, hey, this doesn't look good, you can't be all offended about it.
Mhm.
You have to, like, take that in.
Yeah.
Take that in, look at your work, and be self-critical.
Mhm.
Um I think a lot of people's egos and, like, their pride sometimes stops them from becoming greater because they're not able to absorb those critiques. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Instead they get defensive and stuff, and it's like, when somebody that's been doing this for like 30 something years is trying to tell you something,
Yeah.
like how you can improve, you know, take you know, take that in.
Some of that
They're trying
stuff's
to help
like,
you.
and it's like, especially in your early days, it's not something you pick up on right away. Like sometimes it's like, well, why did you put that line there? It doesn't match, this body
Hmm.
line, or it doesn't, there's no shape on this car that looks like that. The things that like just stand out that don't make sense, and it's like you'll go ham on something and you'll end up drawing something that you're like, you think it looks cool, and the first person that walks by is like, that looks like a fill in the blank.
Yeah, looks like shit.
Yeah.
No, but it's true. I mean, and it's a lot of those things. When I was first learning how to do graphics, I, that was my issue too, where I would put stuff too tight. I didn't leave enough space for, like, the striping or the leafing or whatever. Um, I wanted to overdo it, with colors and stuff, but all that, like, having a lot of technique on there and a lot of like tricks or whatever, and having a bunch of colors, like, it doesn't always make. it doesn't always make things good. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And so with Danny, I learned how to like, I think we touched on this on the previous
Mhm.
episode with Bugsy,
Yeah.
that you have to let your work breathe.
Yeah.
You have to leave room. You have to account for, the striping and the leafing that you're gonna add afterwards. It doesn't have to be super crazy. The layout doesn't have to be all, busy. It like for it to be good. And I think a lot of people, they probably think, oh, the more I slap on here, the better it's gonna be, but not necessarily.
So that
You
like
know,
that's a good one to go off there is like describing busy, cuz like I feel like that's when you go ham and you're like I'm going to do everything in the book. Like I'm going to do every type of
exactly.
graphic on this thing and it's like, yo, hold on.
Yeah, like it's not necessary. Danny used to always tell me, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Mhm.
So basically telling me that like you don't have to throw like your whole knowledge onto one project.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it doesn't go, it doesn't go. And especially you kind of have to kind of see where the customer is trying to go with their project. You know, there is a lot of artists out there actually that are capable of doing busy,
Mhm.
and are capable of making busy look really good.
Yeah.
Um, but some projects don't call for that,
Mhm.
and some customers that's not what they're going for. A lot of my clientele, they I like to kind of sway them into the less is more type of stuff,
Yeah.
because if you already have a super nice car, and the paint looks really good, why are you gonna go mess that up putting some zigzaggy crap all over it? Like, you know
Mhm.
what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
Like it doesn't call for it.
Mhm.
So, it just I think it just depends, like what the project calls for.
Yeah. Well, and then,
Mhm.
you're going to spend all this extra time that the customer may or may not be paying for.
Exactly. And that's always, you know, something to keep into account, especially with the high cost of materials nowadays.
Mhm.
Um, Man, it's hard to get it'd be hard,
Yeah.
from a business standpoint to even get a profit.
Mhm.
A lot of these guys, like Danny used to say too, fine wine takes time, and you can't get fine wine on a beer budget. So, uh, I mean, it's good to be multifaceted and versatile,
Mhm.
with your style, and be able, can I do busy? Sure,
Mhm.
but I I try not to go that route just because I like more clean, uh, long panels, and because it's more timeless.
Yeah.
A lot of that radical stuff, it's not gonna be in style in the
Mhm.
next 10 years.
When
So
when you were developing like your style, uh did you catch yourself like I don't want to say copying, but like emulating or like you get a lot of inspiration. I mean, there's tons of inspiration to like, especially you're around Danny, you know,
yeah, for
and it's
sure.
like, and it's one thing, like, it's not to say that you can't, like, oh, okay, I'm going to kind of use some of these patterns here and I'm going to use, take a little bit from everyone. But, I know I found myself doing stuff like that early on. Like, how was your experience on that? Like, did you
It
ever?
definitely rubbed off.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Since I didn't intend to. It wasn't something that I did on purpose, but I had already been kind of developing my style in those years of practice before I met Danny.
Hmm.
Um, but after meeting him, and because I had to do a lot of work, I basically had to emulate a lot of his work to make it look like he's the one that did it.
Yeah.
Um, I found, later on, people were mentioning to me like, "Oh man, I could see a lot of Danny in your work,"
Hmm.
and it's like, I didn't really notice it until people started pointing it out.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you know what? Like, you're right. But it only makes sense, because he's the one that
Hmm.
showed me how to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
So, of course, he's going to rub off. But that really wasn't my like intention.
Mhm. Yeah,
It
but
just,
that's I would say that's like a good thing in the position that you were in because like at the end of the day, you're working under Danny, and so like everything, yeah, you're a part of his team. Uh but people are coming there for Danny and he's basically at least what I've learned in my career is like when you have a team and it's your thing, like you're trying to duplicate yourself with the people you have so that you guys can create as close as possible to the dream that leader wants to create.
definitely,
So
for
like
sure.
when you say that to me it makes sense. It's like yeah, of course you're going to see Danny's style in you and you're going to be, creating a lot of that stuff because that's what it is, people are coming to Danny to for his style and everything. And so he's generating that style through you and you're doing your best to recreate as close as possible to that.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely true. And that's just that's just how it's so weird how, because even now I was working on a skateboard earlier, and I I do find myself asking myself like, oh, what would Danny do? Like, what would he
Mhm.
put right here? Or like, um, and like, now I'm more intentional about it, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
That's just my way of like honoring him and
Yep.
keeping his style and his teachings, um, keeping them alive,
Yeah.
so, um, but at first, that definitely wasn't my intention, but
Mhm.
people started pointing it out, and it was really funny to me at first. I'm
Uh-huh.
like, no way,
Yeah.
because it is flattering,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, for
um,
sure. That's not an easy thing to like, to get that accolade.
no, definitely not. And a lot of these guys, they want a Danny D style paint job, so
Mhm.
he was kind of the standard for a while, and it still is
Yeah.
in a lot of,
100%. So
for
then
sure.
when did you start or maybe it's not a when, it's just like your own style. Like how did that start like coming into play? Did you become more self-conscious of that of like, oh, I'm going to recreate this, under him, but I have the other projects that are for me.
Oh, definitely. I mean, like I said earlier, I was lucky that I had that schooling,
Mhm.
for those first, 7, 8 years before I met Danny,
Yeah.
because I was already coming into my own.
Mhm.
And um the hints of Danny started coming in afterwards.
Okay. Yeah.
So and I feel like I've kind of maintained that,
Mhm.
you know, a lot of my color combinations and stuff are definitely inspired by Danny. But when I do like my layouts and stuff, I definitely try to that's definitely like my own kind of like, oh, I could
Mhm.
put this here and that there, and but definitely still keeping in mind Danny's teachings,
Yeah.
like I gotta allow the space for my outlines and my leafing and my striping and all that stuff. So um I think nowadays it's definitely a combination. It's definitely a combination of both things. When I was working with Danny, it was strictly like what Danny wanted. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah.
But now I work for myself, so I do have that freedom to do what I want.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I still keep a lot of Danny's influence in it.
Mhm.
Whether it's intentional or not. Because even if I'm not even trying to, just Danny's a influence, and it's like he's working through me, I guess you could say.
Yeah. No, it is.
Like it just
Yeah.
comes out, like
Uh-huh.
even
Yeah.
earlier today I unmasked after I unmasked my skateboard. I'm like, damn, like my fingerprint looks a lot like Danny's.
That's awesome.
I was like, damn, that looks tight.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. You get these little reminders that like they're coming to you whether you want it or not, you know? It's like
Yeah,
it's cool.
and it's something I can't help because, it's just, he was,
Part of your life.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's so hard, my career is relatively young,
Mhm.
so, I can't really talk about myself without bringing up Danny. Like he
100%.
was just such a pivotal and such a giant chunk
Yeah.
of like my career
Mhm.
that I like no matter how hard I try, I can't leave it out. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So
Mhm.
um yeah, it's just
That's yeah.
it's
I
just
mean, not a
crazy.
lot of people get that. So that I mean, I appreciate it. You know, I always like seeing your work and it always gives me a thought, you know, when I see, you know, that stuff and what you're doing. Um and you know, aside from the actually the color side of this, you know, you say that uh you mentioned something about like you know, you get a lot of the color ideas from the stuff that Danny taught you. So
Yeah.
was that like a weak point for you before you met him, or did did it
Yeah,
did it just get better when you met him?
it definitely got better.
Mhm.
That's always kind of the hardest things to do, like to kind of think about is like the color schemes of things.
Mhm.
Like obviously you get input from your customer or whatever, but like when you're doing something for yourself and you get to choose the palette, um, because Danny used to put colors together that sometimes they were questionable. I'll be like, what the hell? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But, I started realizing that depending on like the tone or like the shade, like it could definitely go.
Yeah.
So that's kind of something that got better as I worked with Danny for sure.
Mhm.
Because like I started realizing, whatever you see in the sky definitely goes together.
Uh-huh.
You know, um
Would you say like whatever in nature or
yeah,
yeah.
there's a lot of definitely I do get a lot of inspiration from nature for
Mhm.
sure. There's colors of like flowers or even random stuff. Danny used to look at only the colors of the sky,
Mhm.
um looking at like flowers and stuff. Even some fabrics because Danny was an upholsterer, so looking at fabrics sometimes I find myself looking at like the color or pattern like on a couch or something, and I think, oh, that looks cool.
Mhm.
So you never know when you're gonna find a nice color combination. Sometimes I take pictures of just like random stuff, like some earrings or something, or like a
Mhm.
shirt, a flannel. Flannels are good for color combinations or
Okay.
ties.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so that definitely, um, those are definitely inspirations for that.
Yeah. I you know, recently it's oh man, I'm having a hard time remembering his name on Instagram. It's Custom Prodigy.
Oh, yes.
So here I'm gonna pull it up so I can be respectful to it's 'cause it's Parker. I remember his last name. Uh it is Tony Parker. Yeah. And he had recently put up a post just talking about like the different like you know there's a lot of stuff that's repeated nowadays in like custom paint and like
Yeah, of
you know
course.
about new stuff and everything and you know one of my thoughts was you know and this is going back to your the nature conversation was like there's so many patterns everywhere that don't get used and like for me I think of the ocean because like not just with the ocean but like you know coral there's patterns that are crazy in coral and I'm just like man you can repeat like if you can figure that out you got new patterns
Mm-hmm.
you know and
It's definitely
like
true.
look into nature for certain patterns and like try to recreate those patterns too
Definitely, definitely. Like there was some flowers, I don't know the name of them, but they have like white petals and there's a little bit of purple in there and like the middle part is yellow or whatever, and like you may not think at first glance that like purple and yellow go together, but it just depends the shade.
Yeah.
Like it could be like a soft, like a more like a violet kind of
Mm-hmm.
purple, and instead of like a super, like bright yellow, it could be like a softer kind of like a what Danny would call a pepto color, because Danny used to mix a pepto pink because Danny
Mm-hmm.
loved pink. That was his favorite color.
Yeah.
So he would mix up like a pepto pink looking color.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you could say a pastel, like a
Yeah.
pastel yellow
Mm-hmm.
would go good with like a soft, like violet or something.
Yeah.
So that starts into play, coming into play because you don't like when you're looking at the grass, the grass is green. There's different shades of green.
Mm-hmm.
There's different flowers on them,
Yeah.
and sometimes you may not think that all green and like I don't know, like blue go together, but it
Mm-hmm.
just depends on the shade.
Yeah.
So a lot of playing, with like, you know, playing a lot with your colors definitely comes in handy, which is something that I was doing earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I mix myself a Pepto or like a pastel orange. Then I went on top of that with like a, a orange candy, but to soften the orange, I went over that with gold.
Okay.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So it's not like super bright.
Yeah.
It kind of softened it up. So there's like a lot of things, like knowing your chemicals and um definitely is a big uh plus and an important point
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of going back to that the person at SEMA that we were talking about custom paint, and one of the things that I was bringing up was like you can this is all great. You can have all this custom paint that you're doing. I don't know if it was for himself, but I was like, because I had Jonathan Goolsby sitting to the left of me, and when I think of Jonathan, I think some of the most high end builds in the country, and it's like if somebody like him is gonna trust you to do custom paint, because he's not gonna, and I shouldn't say he's not, but if he knows somebody that does, all kinds of graphics and all that stuff, that's not the thing he does every day. So he's gonna, look for somebody that he can trust.
For
And
sure.
what I was telling, this person was like, well, if you get a project like that and that paint sheets off of there, like that's you're starting over again. And
Yeah.
and that's a lot
Yeah.
of time, and that's a tough, like, that is not fun.
No, definitely not. And that's why it's always really important to let your layers, gas out, really good.
Mhm.
Um, especially, custom paint, especially like the graphics that we do, like lowrider style graphics. There's so many layers and so much material going onto your substrate that obviously, is it possible to paint something, like, say you paint a car, is it possible to paint it in a few months? Yeah, of course.
Mhm.
um I personally wouldn't recommend it though.
Mhm.
Like, when you have so much material, it may look good, once it's indoors or whatever, but once you take it out and it's under the sun,
Yeah.
man, if your stuff didn't finish, gassing out enough,
Mhm.
um it's gonna find a way to 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 gas out. It's
Yeah.
gonna find a way to escape.
Mhm.
And how is it gonna do that? It's gonna crack.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's gonna crack open. It's gonna and you're gonna have a bad time. So I always like to tell my customers, like I like to let my stuff sit. I'll open it up, I'll sand it open, and I like to let it sit.
Mhm.
Like you have to let your chemicals do what they're gonna do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, okay, so then, like, what is there a job in particular that you can think of that you're like, that's a lot of material? and it's what it took to do it. But like how many like layers could you see on some of these jobs?
Definitely the first thing that comes into my mind is I believe it's a 64, the Golden Rose.
Okay, yeah.
So that car has pebble base, it has flake. Just to bury the pebble base and the flake, mostly the pebble base,
Mhm.
it took maybe like 3 sessions of clear,
Yeah.
about 3 coats of clear per session.
Mhm.
So just in that, and it probably takes a gallon of clear just to cover the car. So,
And
um,
this is above primer, and
yeah, yeah, like exactly. The car was so the pebble base. Yeah, we sealed the car and everything, and then
mhm.
we did the pebble base. So Danny liked to, which is how I kind of do my graphics now too. It was kind of like puzzle painting.
Mhm.
Like you have to know where you're gonna put what. So we laid out where the flake was gonna go. We did that first, cleared it, and then we masked that off and left everything else exposed. And then that was gonna be the pebble base.
Mhm.
So the pebble base, obviously, it's very rocky, it's thick. Um, so and that's not even that's just the beginning. That's just to start your graphics.
Yeah, there's
You know,
no
we
it's
already
a
went,
it's a color basically.
yeah, like we already went through like 3 gallons of clear.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like just to start.
Uh-huh.
And then, you sand that, then you start, your layout, and now comes in like your candies and your pearls and uh your base coats, like all that stuff. And then
Mhm.
you're gonna clear it again.
Yeah.
And then sand it open again. And then okay, let's start the leafing, the striping. Corey came in, did some murals. Um
Corey Oz?
Corey St. Clair,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
badass,
Yeah, I
super
know. Yeah,
badass.
he's one of my favorites.
So man, and then after all that, like I think we cleared the car probably like 2 or 3 more times.
Mhm.
Um, for like the final sessions, like the final clear coat session.
Mhm.
Um, Man, so honestly, I think we cleared that car probably like 10 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like 10 gallons of clear, just
Uh-huh.
just in clear.
That's
That's not
wild.
even counting the layers of like all the other materials,
Yeah,
but
the
like,
candy layers, it's a lot.
dude, that now that car has some serious material on it.
Yeah,
But I mean, it looks
it looks
fucking badass,
wild.
and that's why it's important to let your materials gas out,
Mhm.
because they take this car out, they drive it around.
Yeah.
It's out in the sun and stuff,
Mhm.
but it hasn't had any issues.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to lay your chemicals
Mhm.
gas out properly.
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause I mean that's again like custom paint is amazing. Like it's a lot of fun and I've only done it for like myself and for like awards uh where I've done like some small panels and stuff like that, but like a whole car, like I
Yeah.
said, if that sheets off, that
Yeah.
sucks.
It's like a giant. So that's what I tell people too. Like custom paint is like a giant experiment.
Mhm.
Like anything can happen at any time,
Yeah.
and the reasons for it happening, man, could be so many.
Mhm.
It could be like, oh, it was too humid or
Mhm.
something. Like it was raining and you decided to paint some shit when reality you probably shouldn't have. You
Mhm.
know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Mhm.
Like the weather, like when you don't have a booth. See, like Danny's shop was small. We didn't have a booth, so
Mhm.
um, mostly for the clear, definitely you want to have ideal. You kind of get away with shooting, some phase or whatever. If it's raining, because
Yeah.
you're not gonna lock it up with clear right away. You're gonna leave it open. It's gonna be exposed, so it
Mhm.
gives it that extra time to gas out.
Mhm.
Um, but definitely when you're gonna clear, you definitely want to have, a nice sunny day where it's not raining. It's not so windy, because even that can mess up, your clear session. Like you're gonna have all this trash landing on your clear.
Mhm.
You want to minimize the the time. Well, at least I do. I hate cutting and buffing, so
Mhm.
I want to minimize all that extra work for myself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So there's so many things that come into play. Um, Even when you're leafing, the temperature can affect how long a leaf job is going to take.
Mhm.
You know, for the same reason. Um, there's just so many things to take into account when it comes to custom paint, and you know, um, it's always better to be safe than sorry,
Yeah.
in my opinion, for sure.
And then in that same process, like you're talking about like trash and stuff. Like, what about trash when like you're doing candy layers or graphics? Like, I mean, you have to deal with it.
No, definitely not. I mean, it's or a damn fly or something, a
Yeah.
mosquito landing
Mhm.
on your shit. That's like the worst. We always kept, razor blades on hand or some tweezers or whatever. Like if you catch it, go dig it out.
Yeah.
Um if you're still like in the candy stage, you can pick it out and kind of dab some candy in there and it'll kind of hide it.
Mhm.
You just kind of dilute your candy a little bit and kind of just work it up to the right shade.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, all those little things, those little tricks, and that um, you kind of figure out how to do it, as time passes by. Like that's why practice is important.
Yeah.
You're not gonna know how to take out a fly from your clear until it happens.
Mhm.
So, how to take the fly without it losing its legs or some wings or something. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, that's
yeah,
and that when you hear that and you said your first full car took you like what? I think you said 9 years before you did one,
yeah, uh-huh. So,
and
like the margin for error, when you're gonna stripe, it's different. It's definitely different than like when you're painting.
mhm,
Especially if you're gonna stripe on top of it already existing clear. It definitely makes it much easier to correct a line or if there's something that you didn't like, you can just wipe it off or
mhm,
whatever. So, um, it's a totally different. I think a lot of people don't realize too, pinstriping and leafing and all that is a whole different trade than painting,
yeah,
you know, or even doing lettering. That's a whole different trade.
yeah.
So
It's
when you
one
find
job on its own.
exactly, exactly. So, um, it was kind of cool, that with Danny, it was kind of like a one-stop shop. You could get all types of stuff done to your car,
Mhm,
just being there. And I'm kind of fortunate enough that I have the same capabilities, like if someone brings me, like I do most, since I work from home, I do mostly like motorcycle parts or bicycle strollers, small stuff like that. So I'm fortunate enough that if I do encounter a project, like say they bring me a Harley fender or something and it has a dent or something, like I can take it out.
mhm,
I can do body work. I can uh paint it, repaint it, whatever, all the way through, the polish or whatever. Like
mhm.
I'm fortunate that I know how to do all of that. Um there's not a lot of people, there's not I feel like there's not a lot of people that have those capabilities, and it's really cool when you see someone that can, and it can
Mhm.
even, like fabricate their own parts or whatever. I think
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Mhm. What's something like so if you're talking to somebody who wants to do pinstriping, like what are a couple of the things that you think are good fundamentals to also know?
Um, well, you definitely want to know like what they're trying to, what look they're going for.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because not everybody wants a lowrider style pinstripe job on their car.
Mhm.
So I always like to ask, like, are you trying to go, you know, you want to panel it out, you want just like a piece on the hood, a piece on the trunk, a
Mhm.
little bit on the sides, like what is it that you're looking for? What color combination you want, like, if you want any leafing,
Mm-hmm.
is your car going to be sanded and re-cleared afterwards, or should I hand clear the leaf? Like, there's just there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
that's also quite an extensive just conversation to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's your budget like?
Yeah.
You know, um,
Now, when it comes to like leafing, do you, and hopefully I'm not jumping around on a lot of this stuff. I mean, I love custom paint. Again, I'm not a custom painter. I don't know if it's the right thing to say moonlight for myself, but uh it when somebody's working on figuring out, what the style is, the kind of work they're going to do for somebody. um Man, I lost my train of thought again.
it's one of
uh
those days, man.
it's one of those days, yeah. um but you know what, we can move on from, actually that's what I was going to ask you, was when it comes to silver leaf, gold leaf, all that, and I've seen a lot of different ways people approach it, and one you mentioned was whether it's going to be clear coated or anything like that. And um having the leaf exposed, is that something that, like, does that affect the quality of the leaf? Do you really try to suggest people to clear over it?
Definitely. If their car is already getting worked on, and like say it's at a body shop, and their vehicle is getting repainted and they're gonna clear it, I always recommend, like, they should clear it, wet sand it, and then I can go do whatever I gotta do, and then they can re-clear it again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes they may not have the budget to pay for another round of clear, so it's like, um, I don't mind working on top of the base.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's totally fine. As long as the prep work is good, because I am gonna go tape all over it. I'm gonna be pulling the tape off, and like the last thing you want is fucking my tape to come off with a chunk of the base. You know
Ugh.
what I mean? So, um, those are questions that I always like to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I always let them know, like, I can do it on top of the clear coat if that's what you want, but just know that it definitely doesn't have the longevity.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really like the quality, of the leaf. It's just like the longevity.
Yeah.
Just because I can hand clear, some clear coat right on top of the leaf, but because leaf has no bite really, like, it's not something that I can prep, to get that mechanical adhesion.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if like you're painting on a window or trying to paint some chrome, like, it's just kind of just floating on there,
Mm-hmm.
and with wear and tear eventually it might start delaminating.
Yeah.
So I always let them know, like, you may need some touch ups, in the long run, but if that's how you want it, then I mean, it's at the end of the day, that's your car, that's your vehicle, and if that's how you want it, then that's how you want it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I always let them know, like, I always let them know that this is the best way to do it. I can do it this way, but just know that it may not last as long as you want it to,
Mm-hmm.
especially depending on the care, the aftercare that you give it. You can't just be wiping it down all crazy or hosing it, power washing it all hard. Like,
Mm-hmm.
obviously that's not gonna be good for the longevity of the work.
Mm-hmm. So, are there any projects that you've been a part of that really like pushed the limits of even what you and Danny were working on, like, or like what you guys knew?
Um, I mean, so far, I guess maybe the toughest one I've had recently um was like I believe it's a Regal that I was working on. Um, the painter did a really nice, subtle, kind of ghost graphics on it, and I just had to go over there, outline everything, and um like leave, flake
Mm-hmm.
flake striping, some color, just solid color striping.
Yeah.
And it's not that it was like difficult, it was just like really time consuming.
Okay.
You
But
know,
you said
I've
ghost
never done.
graphics. So could you barely see like where you're gonna have
Yeah,
to put
like
the line?
pearl. Yeah, it's like pearl graphics. Then you kind of gotta catch them, in the sun. That's
Mm-hmm.
when you're really gonna see them. Um, so doing that, yeah, like it wasn't that it was hard, but it was just pretty time consuming.
Mm-hmm.
That was I think kind of like my first real um like extensive, graphic outlining and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, like there was a lot going on, and I think so far that's probably been like on my own, like
Mm-hmm.
with on my working on my own. I think that's what one of the toughest ones I've had
Yeah.
recently. Yeah, especially I'm a shorty, so like trying to do the roof, man, it's hard. I
Mm-hmm.
had to I had to take out the air, from the tires and stuff,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
just so I could like reach.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
the
Short
well,
people
I could
problems.
reach, but I couldn't see. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's the
Yep.
problem. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I think, yeah, I think recently, but like once it's all said and done, it's really gratifying to see, your hard work pay off. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
You
it
know,
looks really good.
and like, we have a lot of mutual friends in the industry, a lot of custom paint, people that how often do you get to like collaborate with people?
Um, not that often.
No?
Not that often. No. I mean, a lot of my homies that also paint, they also stripe. So
Mhm.
it's not like they need to outsource their striping or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, but pretty soon, we are gonna get together on the weekend of the Grand National,
Mhm.
and we're gonna have a little painters powwow.
Yeah.
Kind of that's what I'm working on this skateboard for.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna go hang out, catch up with a lot of the guys, and it should be good. But I wish we could get together more often. I do run into a lot of these guys, once in a while at the shows
Mhm.
and stuff. That's always nice. But
Which actually I think we should probably shout that out too. Is cuz that's Flea's, right? Is it the Color the World event?
yeah, that's gonna happen pretty soon at the
Grand National Roadster Show.
well, afterwards we're gonna meet up. Shout out to Ruben. We're gonna meet up at his shop.
Mhm.
Um uh on Instagram he's Sanchez Auto Body.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna meet up at his shop, and yeah, we're gonna chill out, and exchange some art, catch up. So
Yeah.
that should be really cool.
No, that's and we talked about this on the last episode for Danny, and Paint or Die was I it was a huge one. I mean, that was an incredible, like, I got to see it from the outside, that was just like to see the people that came together for that. That's I feel like that's so needed.
Yeah, and it was always, on the weekend of the Grand National. So
Mhm.
it's kind of nice that we're gonna have, something else to look forward to,
Yeah.
for this year coming up, because we would have been getting ready for Paint or Die right now if,
Mhm.
you know. So um I think these events are always really important. It's always nice for us to catch up. A lot of us, live so far away from each other, different states, different countries even. So it's always really nice when we all get to see each other and catch up. So I'm really looking forward to this, and yeah, I'm excited. I'm trying to get my skateboard done. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
before I get out there.
Mhm.
It's always a rush, when it's for your own stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
At least
Well,
for me, it's always
yeah. Well, you know, it's like you get busy, and then because I've done, let's see, I did a few trophies for the Parowitz show.
oh, okay.
I don't know if you know Dave and Jody Parowitz, but
Yeah. Are they the couple that you had on your pod recently?
no, no. So Dave and Jody, huge in the motorcycle scene. Like
Oh,
they're
okay.
like when it comes to a lot of the custom paint and motorcycles, and even just custom motorcycles in general. Dave's been around for a while with custom, and you know his name's pretty. Uh, when it comes to a lot of people, you know he's an OG in the motorcycle scene for that kind of stuff. And so they do a paint show, and they do one in Daytona. And so I've done a few years where you know I was a judge for that, and I'd paint some skate decks and do some stuff like that, and bring it out for awards. Um, and so that was my little taste of like you know custom paint and stuff. That's as far as I'll take it.
Oh, right on.
But
I mean, nothing wrong with that.
yeah, but that stuff is I don't know. I mean we throw our meetups and stuff at SEMA and Detroit, and like I'm sure it's like you get to relate to a bunch of people, right? That like nobody else can relate to for what you do for a living.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, there's plenty of refinishers and stuff, but there's not really a lot of custom painters,
Mhm.
out there. Sometimes I try to think about too, like, you know, in LA is so big, and I know that there's a lot of pinstripers around here, but
Mhm.
like in the grand scheme of things, there's really not that many of us,
Yeah.
as compared to like the techs or whatever,
Mhm.
the
No,
the
for
body
sure.
techs or or the refinishers. Like there's not,
Yeah.
I just did a shop call a couple of days ago, and the manager was like, "Man, I'm so glad that you came through for me. Like I didn't know who to call, or
Mhm.
and I'm like, yeah, you know what, it's true. There isn't that many, you know, pinstripers
Mhm.
around.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
I think it's pretty cool when you do something so like niche like that.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say like that's I mean whether it's paint or die or like some of these other events, like you put that group together, and that's probably the group of like the most some of the most serious like in the country.
Definitely some of the baddest motherfuckers on the planet.
Yeah, 100%. And like
Yeah.
that was my favorite thing about that was like when you all would do like the you know whatever you're gonna trade for like artwork, and it was like everyone was like it's like game on, like
Yeah, and we encourage that, like bring your A game.
mhm
Danny used to always say, like, because, especially, with people that do know what they're doing, it's like you gotta come with it, you know what I mean?
yeah
Like, um, you wanna have a fair trade,
mhm
but you also wanna impress, I guess you could say,
yeah
Um, when I was still learning, and it was mind blowing to see the kind of technique and stuff that a lot of these guys would have on their artwork. I was like, man, how did you even do that?
mhm
Like it's so crazy, and it is really important to me to kind of network with in these events, and really you know pick each other's brains,
yeah
and learn new techniques and stuff to continue upping your game.
mhm
You never stop learning. There's so many things out there that I've never attempted that
mhm
um I'm gonna play around, when I have, a free day. Especially this year, I wanna make more time to just do random artwork
mhm
and develop more technique, and get better at doing my layouts, and even and learning how to fix your fuck ups. I
mhm
think that's really important. you know Um,
That's a
learning
art
how
on its
to
own.
exactly like learning how to blend in, and it's happened to me before. Like I was doing a skate deck a few years ago for an event that Bugsy had in Arizona.
Hmm.
Um, I I was doing a I was sanding my skateboard for striping, I think, and I fucking burned like a corner. And
Oh.
I was like, oh shit, and I had to blend it in. I didn't want to redo that whole graphic again.
Hmm.
So like I challenged myself to be like, okay, can I blend this in? So and it was like I had done a Pepto pink and I
Hmm.
did a like a magenta candy on it and like a fade. So and then I think I threw some pearl on top of it too. So I had to like kind of like work that area. So like that experience that I have on blending
Hmm.
from trade school, like, because you have to blend, when you refinish sometimes. So um, taking that into account and then seeing Danny, blend in stuff
Hmm.
when, because it happens to the best of us. We're gonna fuck shit up.
Yeah, 100%.
you know. So seeing how he would go about it, I kind of, put that to use. And man, after I cleared it, man, you couldn't even tell. I was like,
Hmm.
hell yeah,
Yeah.
success.
Hmm.
So I think, um, I think putting, more practice into stuff like that is definitely something that I want to work on this year for sure.
Yeah. So one thing I really wanted to talk to you about was just like the lowrider culture, because whenever I think of it, to me it's a very important aspect
For
that
sure.
like it feels like it's getting more attention now, because like I mean I've seen stuff for the Peterson Museum,
Yeah.
and you've been a part of a couple things like that, right?
Yeah, I was actually a part of that exhibit.
Uh-huh.
Um, the the museum actually requested like a Danny D memorial piece, and Chino Chino was nice enough to hit me up and tell me like, hey, I think you're the perfect person to do this,
Yeah.
because with my history with Danny and I was his last apprentice and I kind of know um his style and technique. So um would they had like that big tower. There was like a tower of like full of mini hoods
Hmm.
on there. So I had one on there and it was a Danny D memorial piece. And um I definitely, you know, uh I went through pictures and just through my memories, of being with him, and I implemented a lot of his technique and color scheme and um into that piece.
Yeah.
And it was really an emotional uh piece to make.
Yeah.
um for sure. So I definitely did it with a lot of heart, and um I appreciated the nice words and feedback that I got.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So
I
um
loved seeing that they were doing something like that, and there's a lot of names that we both know that are all connected into that. I mean, I think Bugs was a part of that, right? Did they take a piece from
yeah,
him or something?
he was, but I don't think he was I think he was busy, so I don't think he
Hmm.
was able to make it to the display.
Hmm.
um but I mean, there was some amazing pieces in there, amazing cars in there, very historical.
Hmm.
They even had Japanese artists in there. The lowrider scene in Japan is
Crazy,
fucking crazy.
crazy.
Yeah, it's like amazing, and they're so tedious and so attentive to detail.
Hmm.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I think, when I do my scroll work, I definitely get a lot of inspiration from Japanese style scrolling,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, but that event was super important. Just the Peterson is a very prestigious, museum here in LA. And for lowriding to be in a space like that,
Mhm.
was such a huge deal. And for the exhibit room to be so large, it was a very large exhibit.
Mhm.
So I thought that, it was super, super important. And I was so excited that I got to participate in it
Yeah.
because it was such a big deal.
To me, that like that I feel like that opens the door to like, because like you could say at one point like lowrider graphics was like, it was, there was a demographic there, right? And like these were the
Yeah,
only
for
people
sure.
that were gonna do it. But like
Definitely.
I feel like that's opened up the door where a lot of people are like, oh, like yeah, that's a really cool art form, and like I want to try it.
Exactly. Exactly. It opened up like the audience too.
Mhm.
Like, there's probably people that have never seen a lowrider or probably never seen those techniques that are on those cars,
Mhm.
that got the opportunity to see and see it in a different light, because, low riding obviously comes with its stereotypes or whatever,
Yeah.
but being in a space like that, it changes like the lens you're viewing it through. It's more fine art,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? And
That's what
it,
made me excited about it, cuz when I was seeing the the display and all that online, I was like, this is making people who would have never thought of it as like
Mhm.
this real art form and a real avenue to like make a living and to like be respectable. Like it was, I was so stoked when I saw that.
Yeah, man, it was beautiful. And not only the paintwork too, it's just like all the details, like the engraving, the hydraulic setup, the
Yeah.
interiors, it was just so um it was so incredible. It was a great experience, and I'm really, really glad um that I was lucky enough to be called to participate in that for sure.
Yeah. No, you definitely deserve it. Like for sure.
Thank you.
You definitely deserve that. And there, you know, there's been some other what was it? I think I saw last year, I don't know if it was Lowrider Hall of Fame or anything like that, where I think Bugs and Danny, their
Mm-hmm.
names got put into that.
Yeah, that was definitely. I unfortunately wasn't able to attend, but um, that was also a big milestone for my dear friend Bugsy
Mhm.
and and Danny for sure. I mean, and I thought it was really cool that they got into together.
Mhm.
You know, um, they were obviously everyone knows they were very close friends, and
Yep.
um, I think it was really cool that both of them got that same accolade together.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, how's your with like the lowrider community of like custom paint? How has that changed over the years? Like in your view?
Um, I think there's definitely a lot of fresh, uh, young painters out there.
Yeah.
Um, I'm definitely starting to see a lot of more women in the lowrider community.
Yep.
There's like all women, car clubs
Mhm.
nowadays, and there's women, all up in the nitty gritty, working on their cars.
Yeah.
Which
Cuz
is really cool to see.
yeah, cuz at one point it was you'd see probably more models than
Oh,
anything,
definitely.
you know, but now it's like you're right. Like you're seeing more like hands-on.
Yeah, yeah, which I think is super cool. I think we need more of that. I'm all for
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
Um, so I think with the younger generation, I think you know, the gender norms are kind of like they're not like a thing,
Mhm.
like a strict thing nowadays.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kind of like a big reason why I wanted to do something in the automotive industry was kind of like a form of rebellion. Like I
Uh-huh.
I always hated double standards, and I grew up with a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys in my family.
Mhm.
Um, so I was always one of them. I was just always one of the guys.
Yeah.
So, against some of my against some of my mom's wishes, sometimes, she tried to make me girly or whatever, try to buy me dolls and stuff. But
Mhm.
I wanted to play with Hot Wheels on the little carpet with the
Yeah.
streets.
Yeah.
you know, and that's what I wanted to do. So, um, I always think it's really nice to see, even now when I go back to trade tech and I go visit my professor, I see a lot more young women in the program, and it's always really nice to see.
Mhm.
I'm all for it.
Like if there's a young woman who's listening right now, like what's your words for her, for if she wants to get into custom paint?
I think basically a lot of the same stuff that I touched on earlier was
Mhm.
basically, like put in the work, put in the practice,
Yeah.
you know, have be tough,
Mhm.
have tough skin. It's a male dominated industry still, even though there's a lot more women, breaking through,
Yeah.
but it is a male dominated industry. Um, you may run into, some of those jerks, unfortunately, you know, a lot of the guys that I know are very encouraging.
Yeah.
Uh, they totally respect, what I do.
Yeah.
But a lot of that has to be earned as well. So how do you earn it? By coming with it.
Mhm.
Make sure that your work is on point. Put in that work,
Yeah.
and be open to criticism.
Mhm.
Don't be getting all offended. Don't go cry. At home.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like, or if you do, fuck it. Let it out. But
Yeah.
regroup, get it together, and like be self critical.
So like
And
that's knowing the difference between actually being like a real abusive, like somebody who's actually being abusive versus like somebody who's like you're they're being critical of the work that you did.
yeah, there's definitely a difference. If someone's just giving you a hard time just because you're a woman, well, then, tell them to go fuck themselves. You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, get the fuck out of my face. But, like, if you're gonna offer me some, like, oh, this color, maybe looks better over here, or like this line is crooked or whatever, like, don't be jumping to be getting offended.
Mhm.
Like, take that in. Be self-critical. Look at others' work.
Mhm.
Um, there's plenty of examples.
Yeah.
There's plenty of artists out there that do top notch work,
Mhm.
and we have eyes, we can tell,
Yeah.
so um go look at their, and nowadays you have social media. Like when I was learning, there wasn't social media.
Yeah.
So like now you have plenty of examples out there. There's plenty of pages you can see, plenty of artists
Mhm.
where you can go on their page and actually get reference, from their work. Like what does top notch work look like?
Yeah.
And that's what you have to aspire to do.
Mhm.
So, which is always my goal. I'm just trying to keep up with all
Mhm.
these guys.
Yeah.
So, um, I think that's what I think when it comes down to it. I think that's just what it is.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And that's that the one thing I've noticed is like there's definitely differences on the guys and the girls, but there's also a lot of crossover, especially when you're young,
Definitely, definitely.
'cause it's a lot of people get their feelings hurt and all that stuff, and it's like, yeah, yeah, when you get a little older, you get a little bit more of a thick skin on that kind of stuff and realize that like this stuff is actually meant to help you,
Exactly.
versus
You definitely have to have some mental resilience for sure.
mhm. Yeah.
You can't be, like I said, you can't be getting all in your feels and all sensitive.
Mhm.
If someone's trying to help you,
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be open to it.
Mhm. Uh is there anything as far kind of getting back into the lowrider culture stuff? Is there anything in that world that like you'd like to see, continue like the Peterson Museum, right? They did that whole event, and which I don't is that still up? Because I know it
It
changes constantly.
Yeah, it ended. I think it was last year. I think it
Uh-huh.
ended last year, like around May.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was like a pretty long. It was like a year-long exhibit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it was really good.
Is there anything like that that you want to see more of, like different events or galleries or
Oh
um
yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's always important to have this sort of art form in prestigious, institutions like that,
mhm.
because it does expose it to a different audience,
Yeah.
you know. Um and I think it also, obviously it's a part of our culture too,
Mhm.
like, when I think lowriding, I do think LA. I think Chicano culture,
Yeah.
I think Hispanics,
Yeah.
Um so I think family,
Yeah.
because it is, obviously it maybe, years ago before my time, it had a, maybe a negative connotation attached to it.
Mhm.
But I think people are becoming more open-minded,
Yeah.
and um, you know, people are starting to appreciate, kind of our culture,
Yeah.
and all the art forms that come with it.
Mhm.
So, I don't think it's any different than like going to like a museum and learning about, like indigenous communities or
For
something. I mean,
sure.
like,
No, 100%. You're right. Like that's it's just another aspect. If it's automotive,
exactly,
and
exactly. So,
this is an aspect of custom paint that, like, there's stuff where there's motorcycles out there that it's all airbrush work,
mm-hmm.
right? And like that's a different genre. And
Exactly, and that's the cool thing about this art form too, is like you can apply it to anything,
mhm.
you know. Uh, Speaking of the Peterson Museum, before this most recent exhibit, there was a previous one, maybe around 2017,
Okay.
um, where Danny painted some roller skates, and I did a toilet seat.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, a homie did a like a folding chair.
Mhm.
Another homie did a like a cooler or like a grill, or that we applied it to all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And like that's the really cool thing about this art form, is that whatever holds still, you can go paint it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can customize it, and it
Mhm.
can become, something totally different. It can become a fan.
Yeah.
Um, you
100%.
know, uh, you know,
Yep.
these regular everyday items can become fine art,
Mhm.
worthy of being in a gallery, in a museum. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So I think that's really cool, to think about, and I definitely want to be able to participate in more events like that for sure.
That's like I think last year at the Detroit Autorama, there was some lowriders there. And I think some of them got the grade 8.
Wow.
Uh but Detroit Autorama, like, there's a certain genre of car that you start to you see a lot of. Um and when I saw some of those cars, it made me happy because it was like, "Oh, now this is including
Yeah,
this art form."
exactly. Because when
Because
I think Detroit Autorama, I think more like hot rods maybe, or like
mhm,
a um
classy
just like
high-end
restoration,
builds,
yeah, like
like,
restoration type of work.
mhm. Yep.
Kind of like the Grand National.
Yeah.
See, like the Grand National, I think too is kind of starting to expand too, where like I'm starting to see like mini trucks, and
Mhm.
there is, more like lowrider style, vehicles in there. And I think that's really cool, because Grand National Roadster Show, I always think, American Muscle, or like,
Yeah.
hot rods, the rat
Mhm.
rods, stuff like that.
Yep.
So it's definitely really cool to see, you know, the lowriding style be more accepted into just like, the mainstream stuff,
Mhm.
you know?
Oh, that would be that would be so cool if like the Slonaker Award or something like that. And obviously those awards are, mainly towards a like a roadster type vehicle.
Yeah, for sure.
And like, but imagine one of those types of cars with a lowrider inspired paint job on that, winning an award like that.
Yeah, that would be groundbreaking, I think.
Right? Like that would
Yeah,
push it so much further right there. I would
yeah,
love to see that.
and I kind of see, this sort of trend with in the bicycle world.
Yeah.
When the pandemic happened,
Mhm.
that's when I start in 2020 is when I started my own business.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the pandemic happened like a few months into
It's the
2020.
worst time.
For real,
But a
but you
lot
know
that happened
what?
to a lot of people though. Like it was
But
a
you know
common
what?
thing.
It was so crazy because I was so busy throughout the whole time
Yeah.
because people were at home, they were getting their steamies, and uh they had the money to burn, on like their little toys or whatever. So the bicycle scene here in LA exploded.
Mhm.
I was so busy with bicycles. Um and I noticed that a lot of people wanted more, you know, more striping, more leafing. They
Mhm.
wanted more, they wanted flake, they wanted candy, they wanted just more in general, you know what I mean? Because the in the typical, you know, from my understanding, it was always like powder coat, and
Mhm.
like use some chrome or whatever. But like nowadays, I also went to my first bicycle show
Mhm.
during that pandemic, which was a first. It was crazy for me because I've always been a car show, girl. So it was weird to go to a show and there
Mhm.
wasn't any cars. It
Yeah.
was just all bicycles.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's crazy to see, how many styles of bicycles are out there, and how the flake and the candy or whatever is spilling over into all these different types of bicycles, not just the lowrider bikes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, um,
That's like a whole genre that people don't really like.
yeah, I
Like,
mean, a lot of car clubs have their little chapter, with
mhm.
bicycles only, or like, the strollers and wagons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's always it's always interesting to see, how, like our art form kind of spills, into all these other
Mhm.
categories as well.
And that's always
So
one that went kind of hand in hand in the lowrider scene, was like the car stuff and the bicycle stuff was like, I'll show a picture of a bicycle, it like a lowrider bicycle, to someone and they're just like, "What? Like that
yeah.
that exists?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that bike,
Hmm.
the money that's been poured into that, the talent that has gone through that thing, from the chrome plating to the fabrication, and it's like, that's a bicycle, you
Yeah,
know?"
it's so crazy. It's so crazy. So and now, I see a lot of RC cars.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Like RCs, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on with RC cars.
Mhm. Yeah.
That during the pandemic as well, some of the guys were bringing me their RC cars and like, oh, can you pattern this out? Can you stripe this? Or, you know, it's like it's really cool, like to see how all these different like categories,
Yeah.
still want a little bit of some customization, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's always really cool.
Yeah, and that's why, like I said, I'll still, that would be awesome if it was like a Riddler car that had a lowrider style paint job on it, or whatever award it would be, uh where it's out of the ordinary for that award, and it would just elevate that style up.
Definitely. I think that would be honestly that would blow my mind.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because in the same way, like I've shown pictures of like crazy bicycles, like there's stuff in, because I'm not as exposed to the lowrider scene like you might be, and there's cars that like pop up out of nowhere that I'm just like, this exists on this planet, and this car is so insane, like top to bottom, gold plating, the the chrome, the artwork that is top to bottom. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people really understand. Like there are some crazy cars that they blow your mind, and it's all exterior. But there's cars where every square inch of it has been custom painted.
Yes, for sure. For sure. With Danny, I mean, people people would bring us like their interiors, pieces of their interior to paint and stripe, to match their car.
Uh huh.
Or the bellies, like I would go tag team, let's go stripe this belly,
Mm-hmm.
put that car on a rotisserie and flip it sideways, and we'd go crazy on on the belly area,
Yeah.
on the frame. I think that's true. A lot of a normal person wouldn't know that there's people out there that customize their cars to that extent.
It's like you said, the frame, and then the graphics are like continuing on from the frame to the bottom of the car into the wheel well.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and then into the interior. It's like
Yeah.
yeah, it's like super, like a lot of people might not understand how much work, how much time, how much material that
Yeah.
must take.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
And to
talking about miles, miles and miles of tape.
and the lines match.
Yeah, that's the crazy part.
Like it's like it's so nuts. Like it's so freaking crazy. Like I'm addicted to seeing that kind of stuff. Like
No,
I
yeah,
just
it's super mind blowing because there is so many ways you can go about it. You know what I
mm-hmm.
mean? Like into the jams too. Danny hated doing the jams, so like
Yeah.
that was always my job. Like I'll sit there for the day and just line up the jams or
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, like how it just goes inside and out. It's super crazy.
The jams always like that was I think Loki and Corey St. Clair were two I hope I'm not getting it wrong. I'm pretty sure it was the two of them that I've seen jam work, like airbrush work
Mm-hmm.
done, and that's one that like when you pop a door open and you see an airbrush on that, where the striker
Yeah,
goes on, it's like the icing on the top.
especially when it's quality work,
Yeah.
like from those two guys.
Yeah,
No,
100%.
yeah, because those nobody drives me more insane than fucking Loki. Let me tell you, that fool, man, he's so good,
Mhm.
so
Yep.
good. I
Yep.
always tell him I'm gonna block him. Tired of looking at your talent. Tired of your shit.
He's been doing a lot too. I mean, you see a lot. I've been a lot of the stuff that talking about the Peterson Museum and like some of these events. I forget what is it? Veterans and Rukas, I think is what it was
Oh,
called. And they like painted it like the inside of a building.
yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, that's the crazy part is that it's so crazy how versatile, lowrider graphics are.
Mhm.
Like you could literally paint a side of a building with lowrider graphics.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And
And I
it's
liked how they made it look like there was leafing on it.
yeah. Yeah. It was
That
it,
was really cool.
it was really cool to see that. And again, it's another thing that just it puts a different light to the whole thing.
Yeah. And can you imagine the all the people that probably had never seen a lowrider before, never seen a lowrider graphic,
Mhm.
but now it's in your face on a building.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like I said, I love seeing stuff like that. It definitely any genre cuz I mean I love like, fabrication, custom builds, the trucks, like all the aspects of it. Any of it that's done at a high level, I'm interested in. It's
Definitely.
just another art form that just like it changes the environment that you're in.
It does. It really does. And
And
it's cool, to expose other people to that may not know what it is. Like
mhm.
it's cool to expose like a whole different audience to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of these again there's we're starting to see more people getting into pinstriping. We're starting to see more people get into this graphic work, and you know, that's what's going to keep that going. That's what's going to keep
For sure.
those
I
art
mean, there's a lot
forms
of young,
moving.
there's a lot of young talent out there. Let me tell you.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, like Loki Mercado.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, Mercado's another one that's
Yeah,
man,
killing
he's
it.
good. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, man, so much like this I think this style of artwork is definitely in good hands
Mhm.
with the
Oh,
next
for
generation.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you guys are the torch is currently being handed over,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
you know, and we've, you know, we've lost some great talent over the years, but the way I look at it is, I think I said this about, you know, you and Bugs before, but like you guys carry that torch of, you know, of Danny, and and I mean, how many other people are carrying that torch?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of, Danny's apprentices, honestly, man, they put it down.
Mhm.
Like, there's Zach, Felix.
Yeah.
I think he's in Vegas.
Okay.
Man, he's another one. So good.
Mhm. Yep.
So, so, so good. Obviously, Philip, he's really
Yeah.
good. I just met Philip for the first time. I think, like late last year or
Okay.
in the middle of last year.
Mhm.
I have always heard of him, but like our times, we didn't intercept,
Yeah. Yeah.
or intersect. Let me, better say, we didn't intersect.
Yeah.
He had already left when I met Danny, so I never met him. I never knew him, so it was cool to meet him for the first time,
Mhm.
last year, and he's also really, really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
You know what was a recent one that I was really happy to see was Manny Cicernos.
So, oh, says now, Manny, man, he's so fucking good too.
Yeah. Yeah. And seeing him
Manny is
go out to
so
center
good.
roots to Masa out in Japan.
Yeah, I remember uh when Center Roots started following me on Instagram. I was working with Danny,
Uh-huh.
and I told him like, "Oh, look like my post," and and Danny was being a hater.
Oh,
uh,
that's hilarious. Oh man,
I know he was funny, man.
yeah. But that even goes back to again the Japanese artists.
Yeah, man,
It's
so good. There's so much talent in Japan. Let me tell you,
uh
man.
I would like to do a Moon Eyes show at some point. Uh
For sure. I mean, going to Japan is definitely on my bucket list.
yeah.
Like to check out the car scene over there because
Mhm.
man, it looks amazing, and just like the attention to detail. I mean, the painters that used to come, to our painter die.
Mhm.
Man, they were so so good.
Yeah.
I got lucky that I got to exchange with one of them.
Okay.
I have their skateboard here, yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
once in a while I stare at it and I'm like, man, it's so
Mhm.
clean. Those lines are nice and crispy. Like it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, that's what they do on the regular. Like it's so
Mhm.
crazy.
Yeah. Oh, and then they push the limit of like what graphics are.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I've been seeing. I think he is a Japanese painter where they build up like the primer and like engrave it.
Oh yeah, you're Rohan?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
and then that shit looks that shit's fucking crazy too.
Yeah.
That would have never occurred to me until I saw him
Mhm.
doing that, and I'm like, man, that's crazy.
Yeah, and that's another one where that goes inside and outside of the car.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's crazy, and for that much material to like
Mhm.
not to
Fault.
not fail,
Yeah.
to not have a failure
Mhm.
with that much material.
But they like you said before, it takes, you know, you have to learn this stuff and see how far you can push it and find that right way to execute it.
That yeah, definitely. That's always that's always a must for sure. because besides having a badass paint job, you definitely want it to last long.
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
you're gonna invest, so much in your ride,
Yeah.
you want to make sure that your painter knows what they're doing.
Mhm.
Not It's not always about how fast you're gonna do it.
Yeah. And that
You know.
and you know when you think about like the artwork that's been repeated, or not maybe not repeated is probably the wrong way of saying it. That's just been done already, a million times over, and
Mhm.
not that's definitely not saying anything bad about that stuff. But when you're looking for something new, I look at Japan.
Yeah. And to touch on what you just said, I feel like custom paint in general, I feel like a lot of stuff has already been done.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of how you arrange it, how you put your own twist to it, because the fades, and fans and fingerprint and
Mhm.
all these different techniques. Like the lace, you see them all the
Yeah.
time.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of how you're gonna apply it, how you're gonna arrange it.
Mhm.
I think that's what makes it yours.
Yeah.
Not every fingerprint is the same.
For sure.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Not all striping is the same.
Mhm.
You know. I there's just so much. There's so many different aspects
Mhm.
to a complete paint job.
Yeah.
Sometimes people just see it complete, finished, all done and pretty,
Mhm.
at a car show, but they don't really know, how many people, that vehicle went through, like
Yeah.
all these different hands, like to in order to achieve this one
Mhm.
finished product,
I,
you know.
you're making me think of a thought that I've been kind of working on, and because that same concept of like, okay, a lot of custom paint is there's a there's a point where all kind of it's gonna sound terrible, but some of it looks the same, and you could say
Yeah,
like lace, right? Like that's
yeah,
common entry level like type stuff.
yeah.
And so one of my questions to you was gonna be, how do we come up with something new? But I before I ask you that, I kind of want to break, like, see what you think of this thought, because I almost look at that repeating part as it's regional. So like you could look at stuff in the United States and be like, "Oh, that is you can almost pick out like that's a United States kind of thing, or, a Japanese, artist and all that stuff." And like and that's not even for custom paint. That would be for like custom builds. It would be for hot rods. It would be, whatever, fill in the blank of like the genre.
Yeah,
But then when you look at it around the world, then that's when you see the differences. So part of
for
me is
sure.
thinking like, I think we're at the point where we need to bring in those artists from other countries to help mix up and change where things have kind of gotten stagnant.
Definitely. I think that's definitely true. And I think a lot of the technique and like style changes even from state to state.
Mhm.
Um I think I feel like the standard, what people aim for, is like a West Coast, LA style paint job.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because because I feel like LA is like the lowriding capital of the world.
Mhm. Yep.
It could be me just being biased, but I think
No,
that's what it
no,
is.
I think I agree with you. I think that's
you
like
know?
that's that area is home base for it, at least it seems. I shouldn't say is, but it seems like that's the hot spot.
Yeah. And like, say like a paint job from here, it's probably so much different than like a paint job that you see in Florida.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's probably so different.
Mhm.
Um, but definitely, I think we definitely need more of that outside influence,
Mhm.
because it's true what they do in Japan, you probably don't see here.
Yeah. And there's like crossovers. I'm sure there's like stuff that it's similar, but then you're like, oh, I that's new. It might be in the same genre, but
Yeah,
like like how it was done and like the color scheme, you're just like I haven't seen that here before,
yeah,
or the
that's definitely
effect.
true.
Like okay, the one that I learned from I learned this one from Manny from Cicerno was fileteado. Like that fileteado, that style of I think I keep saying it's pinstriping, but I think it's more of a form of hand lettering. Or
Oh, okay, huh?
like if you look at I think there's one Instagram that you can look up that comes to the top of my head is like Ferrari Filetealo. And if you see the style, it's like a South American type of like hand painting slash striping, and it's beautiful. Like it's like I haven't seen that in the States. So
You're
when
gonna have to shoot me that so I can
yeah,
check it out.
yeah. No, it's I'll send you that because I when he was because he had gone to South America and I don't know I can't remember if it was classes or something like that. And so when he's telling me the story on the podcast episode we did, that's the first time I've ever heard of that. And again, it's a different genre of like again, maybe I'm wrong of like pinstriping and hand lettering that like imagine if the people were exposed to that over here. It's like you're opening the door for like you're going to expand on that, that whole industry, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely. That's why networking is so important.
Yeah.
So important to get with like-minded individuals and
Mhm.
people that are really good at what they do
Mhm.
so that you can, learn from them and pick up from them. Like, um, there's times where I'm stuck and I start going through, some of my favorite artists. I start going through their pages like, oh, what's this? Like
Yeah.
try to get ideas, not necessarily talk copy them, but
Mhm.
there's always a maybe a particular section like, oh, I like the way that you curve this line right here, and
Yeah.
I like how this one intersects here, saying you kind of try to find a way to apply it to your own work,
Yeah.
which is basically what, in a sense, what we're talking about now, how you can see, work from another part of the country and, how they're going about it and how you can apply it to your stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's why social media is such a trip.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
yeah,
Cuz I,
like
I
it's
even I'm sitting here thinking like cuz you've seen another Japanese artist Chameleon paint. I don't know if you've seen his
um
work. He's he's one where like the tank will have a shadow and a shadow that moves.
what the
It's it's mind blowing. And I think a
that
lot
sounds
of it is
crazy.
like resins and stuff like that where they build it up to have depth. And like I think of a lot of the 3D stuff that they're doing over there. It's like, man, how do we get that into lowrider paint? How do we get that into airbrush work, and how can you work those kinds of layers to just you're when you see that stuff, your mind's blown, but it's like you can even go further with that if you just combine these genres that just like push that you again, you're going to push that bar higher and you're going to change the styles and you're going to not maybe not necessarily change them, you're going to increase the effect of that style just from these different countries coming together and showing, uh, how they even went into that route. Because I'm sitting there and I think of like Filetiavo, and I'm like, man, what caused, like, how did they get into that style, but it didn't go in, like into these other countries?
Yeah, that is. You're definitely giving me something to think about.
I really, because I'm telling you, I've thought about this. I I've got enough custom paint friends where everyone said the same thing. We're seeing the same stuff over and over again, And then I think
Yeah,
about this other countries, and that's not to take away from them. They're still amazing work.
I think sometimes too, what comes into play is what the customer wants.
Yes.
I think sometimes your hands get tied
Mhm.
by your customers, like guidelines, or their
Mhm.
expectations of what they want and stuff.
Yep.
Like they may see something at a show and be like, "Oh, I want my card like that," and
Yep.
it's like, they want you to do something similar. So that's where I think that's where a lot of the repetitiveness comes
Mhm.
in.
For sure.
Um, but I mean, I think it also depends on your personal style. I
Mhm.
mean, because when I think back and I look at Danny's work, um, Danny's favorite techniques, you know, he used them in all his paint work.
Yeah.
There was always like some fades, there was always some tape shades, there was always you know, um some pink somewhere in there because he loves pink.
Yeah.
Um like there was certain like techniques that he like were a constant.
Mhm.
Um so I think it just depends also on the style.
Yeah.
It's like a tattoo artist,
Mhm.
like I said this to somebody the other day. It's like, say you want American traditional, you're not gonna go to someone that specializes in Japanese.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Mhm.
Because it makes no sense.
Yep.
So I think sometimes too it just depends on the style that the customer is looking for.
Yeah. No, you're right.
And yeah, and then it's like up to you to kind of like do something along those lines, you know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah.
Um but definitely when you work on your own stuff, or like that's another reason why I want to just have more random, fun paint days, you know what I mean, for myself.
Mhm.
Just to kind of expand on that too. Like, what else can I do? You
Mhm.
know, how can I freshen something up? How can I make it different? How can I try to do something new? Like I think it's always important, even if when you've been doing this for so many years, to keep your curiosity alive and keep learning and
Mhm.
trying new things. Sometimes techniques happen when you fuck up. Like new
Yeah.
techniques can arise, just by you fucking up. So it's like, how can I repeat that fuck up? You know what I mean? Type of shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it's like one time, um, and years ago, we got invited to me and my boyfriend.
Mhm.
We got invited to um 'cause my boyfriend also paints.
Oh,
Uh
shout out. You gonna shout
Shout
him out?
out. And we used to work for Danny together.
Oh, perfect. That's awesome.
Yeah. Um but so we got invited to Trade Tech. They were doing Axalta was doing like a workshop, I guess you could say, where like they invited custom painters just to try out, all like their custom line, like their candies and their pearls and
Mhm.
their their base coats, like their custom base coats, I guess you could say.
Base coat candies, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Um so we went over there, and you know one of us put too much material on, and then it started cracking.
Mhm.
But then it actually looked really fucking cool. so, so people were asking like, "Oh, how'd you do that? How'd you do that?" And it's like, "Oh man, I just fucked up." Like,
Yeah, secret technique.
yeah, like so it's like one of those things where like, oh, like sometimes when you fuck up, it actually ends up looking pretty cool, and like
Uh-huh.
you can incorporate it into your art piece. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the
Wise words from Steph.
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Steph, I think we're gonna leave it. We're gonna end it on that. And we already talked for we're over 2 hours now.
No way.
Yeah, it goes by quick. And I would really love to set something up at some point for if you're interested to come down to Florida and do an episode like
In
here.
person.
Yeah, in our
Yeah,
studio.
I think that would be really cool. for
And
sure.
I think we'll definitely plan something for the future for a part. I guess this would be technically you'd be a part three at this point. So,
Yeah.
um, and but no, seriously, thanks for spending the time to talk for a little while and talk about your life and about custom paint and your thoughts on it and everything. Because you've had a really cool career. I look up to the stuff that you do. I think you're an important person, in this side of the industry.
Thank
Uh,
you, man. I appreciate that.
and it's a lot of fun talking to you. Like same thing what Connie said. Like it's really easy to talk to you. I think we connect pretty easy. So I'm grateful for you to spend the time today. So and if anybody wants to find you, where can they find you on social media?
At Steph's Pinstripes on Instagram with an F,
Mm-hmm.
STEFS, and then Pinstripes all together. Same thing on Facebook. And for all the newbies out there, I like to be helpful. So, you know, I like to help a lot of people. They ask me questions sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
about techniques or applying leaf or whatever.
Yep.
If I can help you, I'll definitely try to. So don't be afraid to shoot me a DM. And yeah, I'm all for it. So um, check out my work, like it,
Yeah.
follow me.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. All right, Steph. Well, thanks again.
All right, man. Thank
Everyone.
you.
Well, we got another episode down. Hey, thanks for listening to the Automotive Artistry. My name's Miguel, and let me tell you something about this podcast. First off, I'm really into this industry. I love all the aspects from metalwork, TIG welding, body work, paint work. I do this stuff myself for a living. I've been doing it for 23 plus years, at least at this moment, and this is stuff that I do every day. I'm really into it, and it's something that I think if you're listening to this, you probably are too. Maybe a couple aspects, maybe a lot of the same aspects that I'm into, but it really doesn't matter to me whether it's lowrider graphics on custom paintwork down to metal shaped parts, uh, fabricated, custom panels, all like it really doesn't matter. That stuff really interests me. So the people that I have on this podcast, that's what they do. So some of them might cover certain aspects, but either way, every episode is going to be a little bit different. So, but I'm also very interested in the people behind the work that we do. So I really want you to get the perspective of what it takes to be someone who's been 20, 30 plus years in the industry and to be as successful as some of the people that are on the podcast. And throughout the success that they have, you're going to hear the stories of struggle. You're going to hear there's so much stuff between every single person. So even though you see someone, maybe it's someone who's been on the TV, maybe someone that you see that's got, just real popular on Instagram or whatever it is, you're going to see that this person's really a person and that they go through their struggles and that it's taken X amount of time for them to get to where they are today. And it doesn't have to be somebody who's really, 20 plus years in the industry. I've had guests on here who are 5 years, and you hear their story and how they're going along. So that's really the point of the podcast. I really want people to get to understand some of these aspects, and even down to we get pretty technical sometimes. My podcast is not about being ultra technical every single time, but I want it to be very relatable to the people that are watching and listening. Look, if you want to support the podcast, there's a couple ways that right now that we have. You can check out aworkingclass.bigcartel.com, and you can find some of our merchandise on there. Right now, it's some products from our old branding, but either way, any of that helps. Doing this podcast, building a studio, it takes a lot. So if you want to help support, check out our website. And the other thing that helps out a lot, if this episode spoke out to you, if you could share it, that makes such a big difference. Look, I'm not trying to make clickbait titles or anything. I'm trying to bring real world experience down from the automotive side. So by doing that, sometimes it gets a little hard for me to even advertise. I actually hate advertising, but I got to do it anyways. So, what I really want to be able to do is share these podcasts in a way that's very genuine, and it really seems like it's hard to do that on these platforms. So, again, if you want to share, an episode that spoke to you, that helps tremendously. So, anyways, listen, thanks for listening. I say that a lot, but I really do mean it because our automotive industry is something that it's growing, it's getting better, the technology is getting better, the people are getting better, the information that's out there is getting better, and I'm just trying to help some of that flow through a little bit easier. So, thank you for your interest in the Automotive Artistry Podcast.